Our story begins with a group of students acting like, well, students. Talking about things that don't matter to most people, but for them, it's the center of the universe. But in the middle of this whole crowd, there's a boy who doesn't talk to anyone. His name is Seo Takuya, a first-year high school student. The reason he keeps to himself? He's an otaku. But not just any otaku. This guy is obsessed with those anime where the main character is a magical girl. He collects everything he can find about it. His current obsession is an anime called Brigman, a show for girls that airs every Sunday morning. But don't be fooled, the visuals are cute, but the story is super intense. Everyone says the plot is deep, mixed with some ridiculous jokes, and that's how the series won over fans' hearts. It all started off great, but the new season didn't go over so well, and Seo's mind is spinning from thinking about it while he stares at his eraser. Just then, a girl sitting in front of him, who happened to forget her own eraser, asks to borrow his. She swears it'll just be for a second, but our protagonist refuses to let go of the eraser no matter what. The girl doesn't get why he's making such a big deal until Seo can't take it anymore, stands up, totally embarrassed, and says that eraser's special to him. When the girl takes a closer look, she realizes it's from an anime. She even guesses it's Pokemon because it looks similar, but he quickly sets her straight. This super stylish girl is Kutoko Ijichi. She's a bit slow on the uptake. The classic, popular, and outgoing girl type. Flashy makeup and energy through the roof. Exactly the kind of person our protagonist can't stand. Kotoko is always hanging out with Amane Kei, another gorgeous girl, but with a much colder vibe, almost like a model. Seo doesn't really like Amane either, because in his mind, no girl that popular would ever be nice to an otaku. And it's right then that the two of them start talking about the eraser. Kotoko thinks the character is cute and laughs, but the mood shifts when Amane suddenly shows she knows the series. And it's not just that she knows it by name, she knows exactly which episode that specific character appears in for the first time. Seo is in shock, and Kotoko, finding it all amazing, starts asking about his other accessories. She wants to know what this Brigman thing is all about. This puts our hero on the spot. Feel the drama. This is the question every otaku dreams of hearing their whole life. He's shaking with excitement because he has no one to talk to about this stuff. But his defense radar goes off. He knows it could be a trap because people usually find it annoying when a fan gets too excited and starts talking nonstop. Even as he's holding back, he notices that Amane also seems to be restraining herself from saying anything. Kotoko notices her friend acting weird, but Amane quickly changes the subject, stands up, says she'll bring her a copy to read tomorrow, and shuts down the conversation. Amane's excuse, she says she only knows these things because her younger sister's a fan, and she ends up memorizing them by association. Nice excuse to dodge your friend's questions. As soon as he has some free time, Seo rushes to check it out for himself. He goes to check episode 2, just like Amane said. And guess what? That character really does show up there. Now, the kid's mind is racing. Could she be a closet fan? Even he, who lives and breathes this anime, didn't remember that the character's first appearance was there. It's an amazing show, of course, but it's aimed at kids, so it takes a while for the penny to drop. He's stuck in that dilemma, wondering if Amane is just as obsessed as he is or not. Speaking of Amane, you can tell she's super outgoing, but when her friends invite her to go to karaoke after class, she turns them down right away. The group gets a little sad and can't figure out why she doesn't want to go, especially today. Seo, who's watching everything from a distance, is dying to start a conversation, but since he has zero experience talking to girls, his insecurity really kicks in. Even so, he decides to work up the courage. He thinks, what if she's the first person I can talk to about Brigman? He goes after her, but as soon as Amane notices him coming, she corners him and gets straight to the point. She tells him not to get any ideas, that she only knows the anime because of her little sister, and that's it. Seo deflates instantly, gets super embarrassed, and apologizes. He lets his guard down and says he was gonna show her a limited edition keychain he had with him, but since she doesn't care, he'll just drop it. That's when the magic happens. Amani's attention is instantly caught. She recognizes the keychain, says she went to 3 different stores and only found one in the same color, and that the one he's holding is super exclusive. Seo just stares at her until she realizes she said too much and goes back to her little sister excuse. But our protagonist isn't fooled. He ignores the excuse and says that if she wants, she can open the packaging. She doesn't think twice, gets totally enchanted, and starts rattling off a bunch of technical details about the keychain. When Seo says he has 2 saved and can give her one as a gift, her smile lights up the whole room. Her joy is so genuine that it completely disarms the boy. She tries to play it off by saying her little sister will love it, but to Seo, that was the cutest thing in the world. The next day, we get to know Kotoko's energy a little better. She's a whirlwind of friendliness, greeting everyone in the morning with her energy through the roof. Everyone loves her vibe, and she's super popular with the boys, for obvious reasons. During class, Kotoko tries to joke around with Seo, pretending to be a UFO abducting his eraser, since once again she forgot hers. Seo is happy to see a popular girl treating him so naturally, even though her energy can be a bit overwhelming at times. Kotoko notices that the eraser is different from yesterday and calls the character Little Squirrel. Seo almost has a heart attack from happiness. That means she really did see Bridgman. According to Kotoko, she took a quick look because Amani lent her the manga. The boy can't hold back and starts spilling information, saying how the manga goes much deeper into the story than the anime. And before he knows it, he's already talking fast and getting way too intense. He immediately apologizes, expecting the classic rejection. But Kotoko is a Jill. She reassures him and asks him to speak slowly because she's paying attention. Watching him closely, she blurts out that he looks like Rocket Man, a super confident character from the series. Seo can't see the resemblance. That's when things get intense. Kotoko stands up, holds his face, looks deep into his eyes, and says that they both have big round eyes, so that's why they look alike. That much eye contact and physical closeness with a girl is just too much for someone who's always been isolated. Seo turns redder than a chili pepper, which makes Kotoko laugh a lot, since the manga character does the same thing. Taking advantage of the friendly vibe, Kotoko asks if he has Instagram. Seo's panic alarm goes off again. He does, but he's terrified of showing it to anyone. But Kotoko was quick. She already grabbed his phone and opened his account. It might seem funny, but for the boy, it's a real trauma. His profile is 100% focused on anime, and in the past, when people found out, he was ridiculed and suffered at the hands of others. He closes his eyes, thinking his world is over and that the nightmare of being made fun of at school is about to come back. But Kotoko's reaction is the opposite. She's amazed. His feed is full of incredible drawings that he made himself. She starts complimenting him non-stop, saying she really respects him for dedicating his soul to something he loves so much and collecting with such passion. Seo feels relieved, but she suggests that he should post other things from time to time as well. And without warning, she gets close to him and takes a selfie of the two of them together, suggesting that it would make a great photo for his feed. The otaku's heart races. Is it really possible to get along with girls like that? Sometime later, Seo is on the train heading home. His mind is elsewhere, thinking about Patch, a key character in the story who just left the anime in a tragic way. May God have mercy on him. He's really suffering and wants to vent, but he thinks he's alone in this pain. Until the train empties out a bit and he spots Amane in a corner, and she's got the same look of deep mourning on her face. To Seo, it's obvious she was crying over Patch, but he's not completely sure. Maybe it's something else. Then, a guy next to her playing on his phone complains that the game crashed and needs a patch to fix it. When she hears the word, Amane panics and shouts the character's name out loud. The gamers think she knows the game too and try to start a conversation, but Seo knows the truth all too well. She's just as much of an otaku as he is. That same day, the captain of the basketball team asks Amane out, but she turns him down flat, telling her friend she doesn't go out with people she doesn't know. Seo, watching from the sidelines, starts to doubt again. How can such a stunning girl be a fan of a girl's anime? But he starts paying more attention to her. Every now and then, Amane lets some anime terms slip, but quickly corrects herself. The masterstroke comes when he looks at her backpack and spots a super rare pin of a magic wand from the series. Seo himself had avoided buying it, thinking it was too girly for him. Now there's no doubt left. Before he can celebrate his discovery, Amane suddenly shows up, notices he saw the pin, and immediately blurts out the old scratched record, "It was my little sister who wanted us to match." But Seo doesn't care about the excuses anymore. He fishes for information, says he cried a lot when Patch had a rough time, and asks if she really hates the anime that much. Amane gets serious, leans in close to his ear, and whispers that actually she really loves the series. When she sees his face turn bright red with embarrassment, she pulls back and makes up a story that she was talking about her sister, just to avoid any misunderstandings. The problem? Kotoko was right behind them, saw the whole whispering scene, and immediately asked if the two of them were dating. Amane desperately tries to explain herself, asking the otaku for help, but the guy was already off in another galaxy. For now, they drop the subject. Back in the classroom, the atmosphere is tense. The English teacher's super strict, and Seo realized he forgot his book at home. If his desk is empty, he's done for. He tries to play it cool by using his math book instead, but the teacher announces that the students will read aloud in order of the attendance list. Seo's name is right at the top, and every person who stands up feels like torture. Panic sets in hard. Kotoko, who was about to lend him a red pen, realizes it's a life-or-death situation. Seo's already picturing the public humiliation, but Kotoko simply raises her hand and loudly says she forgot her book. The whole class lets out a fond little laugh, because everyone loves her. The teacher tells her to share with someone. She turns to Seo, says she'll share with him, and even whispers, laughing at him, that using the math book was a really stupid idea. Seo realizes she saved him on purpose, as a thank you for always lending her things. And on top of that, she still lends him that red pen. At the end of class, the two girls are surrounded by invitations to go to karaoke again. Everyone thinks the two of them are amazing, and Seo hears it all while trying to sneak home. In their minds, they live in different worlds. But today, he doesn't care. It's the release day for the surprise Bridgemon figures. He really wants to get the special edition, but on the way, he ends up helping a super nervous man find City Hall, showing him the way because the guy didn't know how to use the GPS on his phone. Because of his good deed, he arrives late at the store. To his surprise, Kotoko and Amane are there too. Amane quickly comes up with the excuse that it's for her little sister, and Kotoko greets him like it's the most natural thing in the world. Seal finds out that they ditched karaoke because the group invited a bunch of guys and it turned into a couples meetup. And since the mystery box was released today, Kotoko, being totally honest, says she saw her friends super excited and thought it would be fun to tag along. Seo tries to work up the courage to suggest they buy a bunch of boxes together to increase their chances, but his voice falters when he sees the two of them so in sync, chatting about things he doesn't even understand. He thinks about backing off and coming back later, but the two girls run after him and stop him. They know exactly what he wants and insist that they buy together. Amane keeps up the little sister excuse while Kotoko encourages him to pick out a box. Seo's good deed pays off. He gets exactly the figure he wanted. Kotoko pulls a secret edition and is over the moon, while Amane gets the beloved patch, which makes her cry with emotion right then and there. They have such a great time together that Seo finally starts to believe he can really be friends with them. The next day, Kotoko shows up all excited, talking about things that make absolutely no sense to most people. Seo doesn't really get it until Amane translates for him. Kotoko is freaking out because of the 4th episode of Bridge 1. Seo's a bit surprised, because deep down, it still hasn't sunk in for him that such a beautiful girl could be an otaku. Kotoko starts asking questions about the series, and Seo and Amane explain everything in great detail. They talk about the 14 episodes, the Blu-ray release, and the famous exclusive episode 0 that no one saw on TV. Instead of finding it boring, Kotoko gets super excited to watch it. Seo sees this as a golden opportunity to strengthen their friendship and says he can lend her the Blu-ray. But Kotoko, who is really innocent, just comes out and asks if they can go to his place after class to watch it. Amane feels like her friend is being way too impulsive, and Seo, panicking, makes up an excuse that his room is a mess with drawings scattered all over the floor to try to get them to give up. It was the worst excuse ever. As soon as Amane hears Bridgemon drawings, her eyes light up, and she decides they're definitely going. She even corners the boy, saying she needs to learn how to draw for her little sister. Seo is in shock while Kotoko celebrates their field trip to the otaku's house. And there they are, 3 hours later. Seo looks around and reality hits him hard. The two most popular girls in school are in his room like it's the most normal thing in the world? He had never brought anyone there before. The pressure is unreal. The two of them start exploring everything. Amane is amazed by the action figures he has, the ones she was never able to buy. Meanwhile, Kotoko tries to hunt down baby pictures of him in the school yearbook. Seo tries to speed things up, wanting to hand them the discs so they'll leave already, but Kotoko comes up behind him, leans on his back, and declares that it's better if they all watch together. Her presence breaks down any defense the boy has. He tries to argue, saying he's loud and ruins the experience, that he waves glow sticks around like he's at a concert. He swears that no normal person does that, but apparently Amane does. Seo makes up an excuse that he feels embarrassed, but so Amane doesn't feel bad, he says it's fine if it's with friends. Kotoko thinks it's a brilliant idea and really wants to see this crazy side of her friend. Seo works up the courage, they turn off the lights, grab the glow sticks, and hit play. What happens next is a spectacle. Seo and Amane go into a total trance. They comment on every scene, get hyped about the animation, cry over the characters, and live every second to the fullest. For Kotoko, it's hilarious to see how insanely in sync the two of them are. They even freak out when a mysterious girl appears on the screen. Seo's glowing! Finally, he doesn't have to hide who he is, and life suddenly feels so worth it. Until Pat shows up on the screen for a split second. Amane gets so excited that, without realizing it, she throws herself on top of Seo. His world stops. Everything goes dark, she's pressed up against him, and her perfume fills the air. He can't even hear the anime anymore. His heart is racing so fast it feels like it's on fire. Amane, feeling how close they are, tries to play it cool by angrily asking if he's even paying attention. The tension in the air is so thick you could cut it with a knife, and Kotoko snaps a picture of the scene. Amane lunges at her friend to delete the evidence, and in the middle of the chaos, Kotoko jokes that she's gonna post the photo. When she realizes she might get killed right then and there, she changes the subject and asks to see the drawings he posts on Instagram. Seo gives in and shows him his profile, but asks them not to freak out. What shocks Amane isn't the drawings, but his username, Otaku Ocean. Kotoko thinks he's famous because someone recognized him, but he only has 50 followers. The big detail, Amane is one of those 50 followers. She recognizes the account right away and feels super proud. She says she was looking for fan art from the series one day and loved his work. Seo is mortified with embarrassment, but really happy to have her support. The conversation just flows naturally. They talk about other artists in the community, and Kotoko doesn't miss a chance to tease them, saying the two of them look like a couple with lots of secrets, which makes Amane furious. The vibe is so good that Amane ends up on Seo's bed drawing, totally interested in his process. He's freaking out on the inside, but he stays focused so he doesn't have any impure thoughts. Kotoko, seeing the scene, slams on the brakes and asks the question that freezes the whole room. Which one of us is more your type? A deathly silence takes over the room. Seo can't handle the pressure, grabs a game box and points to the character on the cover. This one. The two of them burst out laughing. After all, it was the most expected answer from an otaku. The end of the day, they say their goodbyes. Seo thanks them so much for their company, since it was the first time he had so much fun, and he hopes he was a good host. Kotoko tells him to relax and says the afternoon was amazing. Amane, all shy, also thanks him for having them over. They leave with SEU on cloud 9. He finally has friends. On the way back, Kotoko reflects on how Seiyu is super serious and thoughtful, while Amane thinks about how it's been a long time since she let loose like that. Basically, both of them start to find the boy really interesting. Meanwhile, Seiyu is alone in his room, still smelling their perfume in the air. The temptation is huge. The poor guy loses it. He can't draw, can't sleep, and starts seeing visions of girls in every corner of his room. The next day, the boy shows up at school looking totally wrecked, just a shell of himself. His friends notice, but he tries to play it off. After class, Amane is alone, and he sees the perfect opportunity to finally solve the mystery once and for all. He tries to get her to give up the alternate account she uses on Insta, but Amane refuses, saying she follows way more than just Bridgemon. For SEU, that's the perfect confession. She doesn't use her sister's account. But Amane pushes back, sticking to her story that she made the account for her little sister, who doesn't have a phone. Seiyu throws in the towel, but plays his final card. He says his dream was to watch and comment on the anime live with another fan. Amane falls right into the trap and agrees, fully embracing her otaku side. The long-awaited Sunday finally arrives, and Siyu is more nervous than usual. The two agree to watch the episode and comment on it together by messaging each other at the same time. On her phone, Amine doesn't even try to hide her passion for the series. The morning in a nutshell, they talked about the anime. In the afternoon, they kept talking. At night, that 20-minute episode gave them something to talk about all day long. They say goodbye, both super happy with their marathon. On Monday, Amane gets to school, starts up a conversation like it's nothing, and says Sunday was amazing, asking if they can do it again. Siyu, being a gentleman, says she's the boss. Kotoko watches everything, mouth wide open. For the first time in her life, the popular, confident girl is thrown off, calls the two of them shameless, and refuses to listen to any explanation from her friend. On another day, Siyu was walking around the mall and comes across a super rare special Bridgemone item. He's about to buy it when some kids bump into him. Who's watching these little troublemakers? Kotoko is, but she's without makeup, dressed super simply, in a way he never imagined he'd see her. She panics, pulls him aside, and begs him to keep it a secret, since her family's big, life is hectic, and she was out shopping for her mom. Siyu barely listens. To him, she looks beautiful, and the whole scene is just ridiculously cute. Her brothers show up and start teasing, asking if he's her boyfriend, which makes Kotoko shut them up with pure rage. Back at school, Seiyu tells Amane about the item he found at the mall, but without revealing Kotoka's secret, saying he found it at some random supermarket. The problem starts when he sends the location. Kotoko is outraged when she finds out the two of them already follow each other on Instagram. They talk about the Sunday marathon, and Kotoko, feeling left out, demands to be added too. Siyu has no way out and agrees. Kotoko takes the opportunity to tease that Amane takes ages to reply to messages, but Seiyu defends his friend, saying that over the weekend she replied super fast. Kotoko feels the sting of jealousy and declares that from now on she's gonna message Seiyu. The boy says he'd love that, because he doesn't have any other friends and is always available. His answer leaves both girls deep in thought. The story reaches its peak when Siyu gets out of a relaxing shower, grabs his phone, and realizes he has two new friends on Insta and two unread messages. One is from Amane, asking if he's free on the weekend to take her to an anime merchandise store, and the other is from Kotoko, inviting him to go to the movies. Now, our protagonist is right in the middle of a minefield. Two separate invitations, two amazing girls, and he's gonna have to make a tough choice. But our protagonist thinks that if they invited him separately, it must be some kind of prank. But he already knows both of them well enough to know they wouldn't do something like that. That's why now he regrets not having two bodies. But exactly because he doesn't have two bodies, he thinks the best thing is to go out with both of them at the same time. Soon they meet up, and the girls are obviously stunning. They're so beautiful that while they're teasing him, calling him greedy for having both of them there, all he can feel is grateful to be alive. But they also have a little private conversation. Kotoko teases her friend, since it was the first time Amane was going out alone with the boy. Amane fires back, asking if Kotoko wanted him all to herself. But of course, it's all just playful banter. Amane, for example, says she already had something planned, so it doesn't matter who comes along. If all three of them go, that's totally fine. But Kotoko has another idea. They could take turns going on dates. She would walk around by herself for an hour, and when his time with Amane was up, Kotoko would get her turn alone with him. But she warns them not to go too far, and definitely not to go to a motel or anything like that, something they would never do, of course. Or at least that's what they say, but I don't really buy it. So in the end, Amane and our protagonist end up alone together. Since they're nearby, they take the opportunity to go to an anime store. And as she mentioned before, the goal is to get an item that's being released that very day. Everything's fine, but there's one problem. She's still way too dazzling and draws a lot of attention. In fact, a couple of annoying guys even show up to say she's totally their type, going so far as to invite her out for a drink and even mock our poor protagonist, saying he looks like her little brother. Obviously, Takuya isn't ready for situations like this. He gets super nervous and has no idea what to do, but Amane knows exactly how to handle it. She acts cold as ice, says she's not the least bit interested, and shuts those guys down right away. But afterward, she apologizes to our protagonist, thinking she might have scared him. He tries to say not at all, but she knows she can be intimidating sometimes, since her gaze is pretty intense. Even when she's just saying something normal, people sometimes think she's angry, which actually works out great in situations like this. Feel the drama. To our protagonist, honestly, she was amazing. She's so amazing that even though he's an otaku, he can't hide how impressed he is, which she likes, but then she gets offended because according to her, she's not an otaku. But once they're inside the store she wanted to visit, the girl gets super excited by an anime stuff. Our protagonist is super happy, thinking they have the same interests, but Amane kills the vibe and says it's not like that because all that stuff is for her little sister. Meanwhile, another otaku passing guy sees a super attractive girl with a shy guy. That makes the guy really happy and he cheers him on from afar. After that, they go grab some coffee. Mani seems really happy because her little sister really wanted that stuff. That makes our protagonist curious, so he asks what this little sister she keeps talking about is like. What he didn't expect was that right then, she would make him promise to keep a secret. He doesn't really understand what it's about, but he agrees. Then comes the biggest surprise of all. Apparently, she's an only child, which everyone pretty much expected, obviously. However, she has a neighbor who's a little girl and acts like a younger sister. She always comes over to play with Amane and is treated like family, which is why Amane talks about her so much. This really puts our protagonist at ease because he was already starting to think the girl had disappeared for good, or even worse, that she was an imaginary sister. And according to Aman, she always calls her little sister because it's just easier that way. It saves her from having to explain all the details all the time. But in this case, our protagonist is even happier because he'd love to meet the girl. He mentions that the Bridgman anime is more for kids and that he's never talked to anyone who actually liked the series. Amani quickly figures out that he wants to go to her house, and Takuya says he wouldn't mind that at all. He apologizes, explaining that he gets a little too excited about anything related to Bridgman and sometimes speaks without thinking. Amane actually finds that kind of cute, but right at that moment, Kotoko shows up. Time passed, and now it's her time. She takes him straight to the park. Our protagonist doesn't get why, but she explains that there aren't any movies that last just an hour, so instead she's gonna show him something fun. She starts messing around, taking pictures of him and adding some really ugly filters. Actually, that's her plan for today, to get back at him for the other day when he saw her without makeup. Since there aren't many options and no way to defend himself, Takuya lets her take a bunch of embarrassing photos. He also tries to take some pictures of her, but Kotoko won't let him. Then she thinks it over and comes up with an even better idea, recording a dance video. Honestly, I would have told her to take a hike at that point, but our protagonist is shy and just says he doesn't know how to dance. Kotoko, however, just wants him to copy her dance moves. The music starts playing and she teaches him a bunch of moves. He tries to copy as best he can, but he's as stiff as a board. The poor guy really tries hard, and Kotoko can't stop laughing, finding the whole thing hilarious. Obviously, Takuya is dying of embarrassment and thinks he's totally ruined his reputation, so he begs her not to post the dance. He also asks what kind of dance that was. The girl, being really mischievous, keeps it a secret and doesn't tell him that it was actually a couple's dance. Time with her just flew by, and then it's Amani's turn again. But at the spot where he's waiting for her, something really catches our protagonist's eye. Some cable protectors designed after his favorite anime. Kotoko notices that he really loves that anime and asks what else he likes. It's like opening a portal because Takuya starts talking about a ton of things, almost all of them related to anime. For Kotoko, it's fine that he likes that stuff, but she's way more interested in knowing if he likes any girl. That catches Takuya off guard, since he can't imagine himself falling in love. According to him, he just wasn't born for that. Kotoko admits that she used to think that way too. She didn't really care because she preferred spending time with her family and friends, but she tells him straight to his face that he made her a little curious. And I'm not going to say anything, but we all know exactly what kind of curiosity that is. Luckily, or maybe it was fate, I don't know, our protagonist didn't really catch that part. To top it off, Amani shows up right on time and Kotoko pretends she doesn't know what's going on. In the end, it was an awesome day, and the three of them had a blast. Soon, they're back at school and still talking about Bridgemon. Apparently, in the new episode, a character named Bachelor Jack showed up, and both Takuya and Amane are super excited because his voice actor is someone they already know. Whenever they like something, they remember it really well. Kotoko thinks that's pretty cool, because with a memory like that, they're gonna do great on next week's tests. The problem is, they had no idea about the tests. He asks Amane how she did on the last exams. Adding up all 5 subjects, he barely got over 300 points, which makes him a little embarrassed. And then he asks Kotoko. Curiously, Kotoko, who anyone would think is more laid back, scored 423 points. Meanwhile, Amani only managed to get 175. Seeing the situation, Kotoko, being a great friend, didn't want to see the two of them struggle and started helping a lot with their studies. The downside is that being around two girls as pretty as them, it's hard for him to concentrate very well. Even so, curiosity gets the better of him, and he asks Kotoko how she manages to be such a good student. And according to her, you just have to pay attention and review a little bit and everything works out. Obviously. Of course, that really hurts their pride, but Kotoko can't help them all the time either. She has to leave because her mom isn't home, and it's up to her to make dinner. That makes Amane remember that her parents aren't home today either. With that, Kotoko says goodbye and tells the two of them to keep studying without any distractions. But then their expectations went through the roof and they start talking about Bridgemon, something they swore they wouldn't do since they're so responsible. But 3 hours later, they're already drawing stuff from the anime and wasting a ton of time. Somehow, they get into a drawing war that ends up being a lot of fun. On the way back home, they're super happy about the time they spent together. Amane still wants to improve as much as she can. They were about to press the button to cross the street, but accidentally brushed hands. And you know what happens next, right? The two of them got super embarrassed. Of course, they try to act mature and pretend it's no big deal, but right after that, they walk far apart, unable to even look at each other. Luckily, Amane gets home and they're about to say goodbye, but she stops our protagonist and asks if he wants to come in with her. Obviously, this is an opportunity you can't pass up. But hold on, it's nothing like that. They just want to keep up their drawing war. But it's also true that her parents aren't home. And if you remember, she's an only child, which means the two of them are completely alone. Takuya can't hide how nervous he is. It's his first time in a girl's room, so he's looking all around to see what he can find. And Amane is also really nervous because she had never brought a boy there before. So to break the ice, our protagonist starts looking at her collection, and Amane thinks that's a great idea. She quickly shows him a super rare acrylic figure that you could only get by winning a magazine lottery. Takuya is left speechless. Apparently, Amane worked really hard together with her little sister to get the item. She says that the girl is always begging to talk about Bridgman, but right at that moment, her little sister shows up and says that's a total lie. Actually, it's her little sister who has to put up with Amane talking non-stop about Bridgman. She even calls our protagonist her boyfriend and tells him not to let himself be fooled. Amane is startled to see Saya there. First of all, she asks what the girl meant by boyfriend, but then realizes she needs to introduce the two of them. So she introduces her as Sayu Aayama. The little girl introduces herself in a really cute way. She explains that their families are very close and that today she came to make dinner for Amane. Apparently, if Sayu doesn't come to help, Amane tries to survive on just water. The protagonist asks if Sayu likes Bridgemon, but she replies that she lost interest in it during her first year, although she admits she was the one who got her friend hooked. The downside was that when Sayu gave up on the series, Amane was already totally hooked. Even though she's older now, the little girl doesn't know what to make of the fact that Amane is still such a big fan. That was a direct blow to the pride of those two poor souls. They start cracking a bunch of jokes, but then comes the interesting part. Sayu shows in 1,000 different ways that her friend is totally into our protagonist. Even though Amane swears she's only got eyes for anime characters, the poor thing can't handle the embarrassment and tries to send the little girl off to cook already. In the end, the two of them are alone again, but it's obvious from a mile away that the girl is way more mature than Amane. Our protagonist doesn't even know what to make of all this. Anyway, they want to keep up the drawing war, but now there's some kind of bet involved. Amane says that if she loses in her own house, she'll do whatever he tells her to. That motivates Takuya like crazy because he's already planning to take her exclusive acrylic stand when he wins. Amane was worried he'd ask for something dumb, but now she'd actually prefer that over losing her rare item. But our protagonist is fair and promises to give her something of equal value if she wins. The battle starts and, in the end, Takuya wins. Yeah, it wasn't all that exciting. Since she'd already lost, Amane thinks it would have been better if he'd just asked for that silly thing. But in her mind, silly thing just means a hug or something like that. The problem is, little Sayu overheard all of this and got really offended. After all, two grown-ups acting like degenerates when there's a kid at home is not cool. It was all a lot of fun, but before the protagonist went home, Amane wanted to talk about something serious. She basically decides to trust him and talk about Sayu. She knows the girl's a bit more immature than she seems and doesn't have many friends to invite over, but seeing how everyone had fun that day made her super happy. You can really feel the vibe. Takuya realizes that the two of them really love each other a lot and thanks them for that moment. Amane hears this and gets all flustered too. Sayu says she thinks it's sweet that he says thank you, even though she's just a kid. Amane even feels proud saying that he's her friend, but she can't help but point out that he's still an otaku who sometimes acts like a kid. She was about to say more, but Sayu immediately realizes what it is: love. Dying of embarrassment, Amane tries to deny it, but Sayu keeps teasing her. In the end, exam season passes. Our protagonist scored about 291 points. The amazing Kotoko scored 408, while Amane was the only one who did poorly. This offends the girl, because she and Takuya spend time together, so to her, he's a traitor. On the other hand, Kotoko immediately notices that the two of them are closer than before and asks what they've been up to. And since she doesn't like to lose, she calls out our protagonist in front of everyone to go see a movie after class, since they couldn't last time. She makes it very clear that it's a date, which leaves poor Takuya totally nervous, while Amane has to stay and study. Obviously, the protagonist ends up giving in on it. When they get to the theater, he checks out the movies. To be honest, he doesn't really like almost anything, but he thinks a romance would be nice, until his eyes land on a poster for Zombies vs. Shark. The idea is so ridiculous that he wants to watch it right away. Kotoko notices this and agrees to watch that movie anyway. She makes it very clear that even if it doesn't seem like it, he needs to be honest about his own tastes, and next time, they're just gonna see something she wants. During the movie, he confirms that the film is total garbage, but for some reason, Kotoko is moved to tears, thinking it's all so beautiful. Besides that, they also go play some games and the protagonist loses. He feels humiliated. After all, he's an otaku and he was supposed to win. But according to Kotoko, that's because her siblings always force her to play, so she ended up getting good at it. Later, while they're walking around, they find one of those claw machines with a giant chocolate that looks delicious. Kotoko loves it, but she's never managed to win. She swears it's impossible and that the machine is rigged. Suddenly, our protagonist goes over and manages to win the prize. He gives her the treat right away and tries to win another one. Kotoko is charmed, seeing how seriously he actually takes it. Takuya is also happy because he got his revenge. He feels like he's doing great, and the vibe between them's really nice. They take some pictures together, and she finds it funny that before, the protagonist used to get really nervous around her, but not anymore. She even thinks he might have grown in some way because of Amane, which makes her a little sad. But he clarifies that he only acts this way with Kotoko, and she kinda loves hearing that. Besides that, Takuya is really observant and notices details she never would have expected. That even surprises him, because before he could barely look people in the eye. But Kokoto showed up being super friendly, and he believes it's all thanks to her. On the way back, the girl keeps her distance because she's embarrassed, but she doesn't want to show it at all. Because of that, our protagonist thinks he messed up somehow, so she has to let her know everything's fine and ends up getting closer, even though she's still dying of embarrassment.
On the other hand, we see that Amane was also watching a movie by herself. And look, it's considered a masterpiece of love and tears. Every couple who watches this movie ends up even more in love. This makes her remember that date our protagonist had with Kotoko. So when they get to class, she goes straight over to talk to them. Poor Amane, a little nervous, asks which movie they went to see. She thought that if they had watched that romance movie, maybe they'd be closer, but what they actually saw was Zombies vs. Sharks. According to Kotoko, it was a lot of fun. A man can't believe they watched that on a date, but at the same time, it puts her at ease. But then she wonders why she feels so relieved, since according to her, she doesn't care what they do. Kotoko also says that they used a photo booth. Feel the drama. Amane immediately gets worried, thinking there was a romantic vibe. She wonders if they were doing poses, holding hands or something like that. But nope, they were dressed up as a zombie and a shark. Kotoko's all happy because the photos turned out great, but she accidentally drops a small photo. It's her with an older man. Takuya catches a glimpse of the picture and immediately wonders who that guy is. Meanwhile, Kotoko almost has a heart attack. The poor thing gets startled and says she needs to go to the bathroom to take care of something, running off right away. Then our protagonist starts to worry, thinking the guy might be her boyfriend. That makes him curious because she had said she didn't care about love, but apparently she has someone and even goes out with him, which he doesn't think is right. Right at that moment, Amane says that Kotoko has an older brother, but she had never seen the guy's face and knows for sure that it's not her dad. And honestly, being a little older isn't a problem at all, but that guy looks like someone who's already paying child support. Now that's a problem. Amane even worries, thinking he might be a sugar daddy, and our protagonist is concerned about that too. Kotoko isn't the kind of girl who would do something like that, but she hid the photo so quickly that it left some doubts in the air. So Amane wonders if they should really get involved in this. After all, it's her life. However, our protagonist says yes, they need to. Both girls are very important friends to him. If either of them has a problem, he wants to help however he can. That's why they form a committee to help Kotoko. And right at that moment, she sees the two of them together and feels like she needs to give some explanations. That's why she comes over and tries to explain that actually that person was her older brother. She was always really close to him as the youngest sister, so she understands it might seem a little weird. Hearing that immediately puts both of them at ease. But then comes the question, how many siblings does Kotoko have? So she explains that she has 5 siblings, 2 younger and 2 older. Just to give you an idea, the oldest of them is 18 years older than her. And well, with that, everything becomes a lot clearer. Right at that moment, someone shows up to tell Amane that it's time to work on something. She wants to go right away, but before she leaves, she tells her friend that if anything happens, she has to tell them, or at least her. She's a really important friend. That makes the poor girl a little embarrassed, but she says it's okay and that she expects the same from her. With that, Amane leaves. Kokoda turns to our protagonist and says she almost fell for her because of the way she just spoke. He thinks that's a bit of an exaggeration, but comments that it's really nice to have friends you can open up to without being afraid of anything. But since he's almost too honest, that goes straight to Kotoko's heart. Later, in other classes, everyone gets the announcement that there will be a ball sports tournament, so everyone needs to confirm which team they're going to play on. And honestly, neither Kotoko nor Takuya are happy about it. Kotoko feels embarrassed just thinking about playing ball sports, and our friend thinks he gets embarrassed in sports in general. But then Amane shows up and says it's her time to shine. Takuya comments that she doesn't need to try so hard. She immediately gets offended, thinking our otaku friend believes she's useless. But that's fine. Tomorrow he'll be surprised when he sees the girls' basketball game. That's why she asks him to come watch. And that's exactly what our protagonist does. During the game, we see Amane absolutely dominating on the court. She's really good at playing and stands out a lot, with everyone praising her. Some girls even start talking about how Amane made it to the national championship back in middle school. She even earned a nickname, the Iron Mask. That's because she never smiles, not even when she pulls off an amazing play. But our protagonist is sure that deep down, she must be really happy. He remembers that Amane might seem kinda unapproachable, meaning not many people try to talk to her because they're intimidated. And since she's such a good and popular player, maybe people misunderstand her. At this point, she was already about to head back for the next half of the match. She seemed to be looking for someone around there, but didn't think much of it and went straight to practice, until our protagonist decided to cheer up from the stands. And as soon as she heard his voice cheering her on, she broke into a beautiful smile in front of everyone. Of course, no one has any idea who that smile was for, but there's no doubt it was wonderful, and most people fell in love right then and there. On the other hand, Amane feels like now she's gonna have to show off even more. While she's playing, she thinks that sure, maybe she's not as smart or as friendly as her friend, but she has her own qualities and wants to show them off. But right at that moment, she starts thinking about our protagonist. She doesn't really understand why she's doing that now either. Because of that, she gets distracted without meaning to and ends up tripping. Now she has free throws to make the basket. According to Amane, she kinda understands why she can't get him out of her head. It's because she wants to get revenge. He beat her on the tests, so she wants to beat him at sports, at least. Because of course it's not like she has feelings for him or anything like that, but thinking exactly about that, she ends up making the basket. Everyone cheers and gets excited, feeling like the team is gonna win. One of her friends comes over to congratulate her and comments that it's obvious she loves this. That scares Amane, who was thinking about our protagonist. She says it's not that she hates it, but saying she loves it is a bit much. But of course, her friend was talking about basketball. Then Amane agrees and says that in fact, she really likes the sport. That's why the girls ask her to join the team, since with her, they'd be unbeatable. But that doesn't totally convince her. After the game, our protagonist goes to see what's left for him. He ended up signing up for baseball. The poor guy is super worried, thinking he might fail badly and make everyone hate him. But right then he remembers Kotoko saying that she also gets secondhand embarrassment when it comes to ball sports. So he gets worried and decides to go see how she's doing. And when he gets there, he realizes that she's actually really bad at it. The poor girl wonders why this thing doesn't work the way it's supposed to. Meanwhile, the people who are actually there for the sport are wondering why there are so many people watching. There's almost never anyone there, and actually there are more boys there than at the basketball game. That's why our protagonist figures it must be because of Kotoko. They're all just a bunch of clueless guys. But putting that aside, he notices that his friend, even though she's terrible at the game, doesn't give up on trying to get it right. And that's actually pretty inspiring too. So when it's his turn to play, he thinks that even though he's really bad, he still needs to give it a shot. His moment comes and he mentally prepares himself to hit the ball. As expected, he's a total disaster because he doesn't hit a single ball and does really badly as a batter. He's sure it's all over and that everyone's gonna hate him. But suddenly, one of his teammates comes over and says that he didn't give up and did a great job trying. Another one's surprised too, because he really put in the effort, and so little by little, his own team starts to really support him. They think that even if they lose, they're still gonna have a lot of fun. Of course, that's exactly what a loser would say, right? But at that very moment, he notices that Amane and Kotoko have arrived at the field. Everyone sees the two of them together, gets impressed, and starts wondering if they came to cheer for someone. Some of the more delusional guys think they came for him. But nope, they're actually talking about the real protagonist, our friend from the class. Amane asks Kotoko if she's already talked to Takuya about it, and she says no, that she'll do it later. And well, that's exactly what they do. When they get together, they say there's gonna be an open barbecue. Basically, it's a celebration party. Both volleyball teams, the basketball teams, and the soccer guys are all going. To sum it up, it's a place where only people who really like to socialize go, and our protagonist isn't into that. Actually, for Amane, there are too many guys going, so she's not interested either. But Kokoto says the girls from the basketball team really want her to be there. But there was one thing they didn't expect. Takuya can't go because he already has plans. Apparently, he made plans to go to karaoke with the baseball team. They even let him sing anime songs. It's the first time someone besides them has invited him out. As soon as Kotoko and Amane hear this, they're super happy for him. He's making real friends, so they're really proud of him. But Amane feels a little bit jealous, because according to her, they're gonna have more fun being able to sing those kinds of songs. Which Kotoko finds kind of funny, because even if they let her, Amane wouldn't go if it was just guys. But that gives Kotoko an idea. She wants the three of them to go to karaoke another day. Summer break's coming up soon, so they can go to the beach, to festivals, and things like that. That gets Amane excited right away. Our protagonist starts thinking about it, because last summer he spent almost the whole time at home. Not that it was a bad vacation, but Kotoko and Amane notice that he really spaced out. So they already tell him to start clearing a schedule. But of course, before talking about vacation, first they need to pass their exams to earn those days off. And well, time passes again until we get to karaoke day. I show up by surprise because they never set an exact date. They just showed up. But what's done is done, and there's no way to back out now. They're super chill, but he's a bit awkward and apologizes to both of them inside. He feels bad for making them spend time alone with him. But both of them get upset because they had already given him a heads up before. They want to be with him because they have fun together, and that's that. They insist so much that our protagonist decides to make the most of the moment. Kotoko and Amane like seeing that energy, so they make him sing first. While he's picking a song, Kotoko takes the chance to talk to Amane. She blurts out that if he sings well, Amane will definitely end up falling for him. Amane just laughs it off. Anyway, our protagonist has already picked a song. And even though they're just joking around, Amane and Kotoko start to think that maybe he really can sing well. Who knows, maybe he'll pick something other than an anime song and surprise them both. But nope, of course, he puts on an anime opening. He spends the whole song singing at the top of his lungs, pouring his heart and soul into it. When he finishes, the girls are genuinely surprised. Actually, they really like the performance because he put so much passion into it. Amane even says that if he had told her beforehand, the two of them could have sung together. Then Kotoko says that they can sing together now. This leaves the two of them a bit confused, because apparently Kotoko knows the song and really likes it. She's an angel to her friends. So the afternoon goes by, and the three of them have a blast with all of this. They put their heart and soul and their voices into every song, but as you'd expect, they end up totally exhausted from singing so much. That's when our protagonist notices that Kotoko looks a lot like Michi, a famous idol from an anime. Kotoko doesn't get it at all, but Amane immediately agrees. They were just about to start talking about each person's favorite scene, but as soon as Kotoko saw the character, she tried to imitate one of her lines. She turned to our protagonist and said she'd always be by his side, but the impression didn't come out very well. Amane actually gets offended and tells her to do it right or not even bother trying. And well, right after that, our protagonist goes to refill his drink, and Kotako's too. On the way, he keeps thinking about how amazing it is and how much fun it is to spend time with them. But before going back to the room, he realizes he doesn't know which cup is his. Feel the drama. This makes the guy super tense, because it gives him that basic sense of anxiety. He was almost about to switch the straws, just to make sure she wouldn't drink from where he drank. But right at that moment, Kotako comes out, grabs her cup, and takes a drink. The guy immediately feels terrible, and Kotako gets startled, thinking someone put coffee in her drink. Our protagonist says no, but she still thinks he played some kind of prank because he's staring too much. That's when he ends up explaining that maybe they just had an indirect kiss. That makes Kotako laugh a lot, saying they're not kids anymore and that it's just silly. Seeing that she doesn't care, our protagonist relaxes too and goes back to the room. He goes to check what the next song will be to sing with Amane, but deep down, Kotoko is dying of embarrassment. The whole time she thought it really was just silly, but with him, it's a different story. In the end, they're exhausted but really happy. On top of that, they're super excited because summer break is coming up. That reminds Amane that she needs to tell Kotoko something. She asks her friend to save a day in the middle of August so they can go out together. And just like that, Kotoko wants to set up another day with her, a barbecue at the beach. Her older brother organizes a family barbecue every year. Usually it's just him and his two younger siblings, so Amane will feel totally comfortable. But of course, it's not just with Amane. She wants our protagonist to come along too. He's a bit unsure, since it seems like a really family-oriented event, and he doesn't want to intrude. But she insists and says yes, especially because her little siblings would definitely love to meet him. She even suggests that Amane invites Sayu, and according to Amane, she would also love to see our protagonist again. With so much pressure on him, the poor guy has no choice but to accept. But seriously, deep down, he's super excited about the idea and thanks them for the invitation. He had never made summer plans with friends before, so he's sure these will be some fantastic holidays. And just like that, we cut straight to the beach. Our protagonist is admiring the scenery when suddenly the girls show up. And let me tell you, they look amazing in their swimsuits. That was the end of the episode. Comment the words Part 5 so I know you made it this far and want to see how this drama unfolds. I'll give your comment a heart. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episode, because the hype is just getting started. Without further ado, Ribabina says goodbye and see you next time.